Hey y'all, remember the early 2000s? We were all freaking out about Y2K. Would the computers crash? Would the world end? Spoiler alert, it didn't. But that sense of anticipation, that was so 2000s. Everything felt new, uncertain, and totally exciting. Let's take a trip back, shall we? Okay, fashion. Let's talk about the low-rise jeans. We all wore them. They were the epitome of early 2000s fashion, hugging our hips and showing off just the right amount of midriff. Whether you loved them or hated them, you couldn't escape them. They were everywhere, from the runways to the hallways of our schools. Celebrities like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera made them iconic, and we all wanted to emulate that look. The lower, the better, it seemed. And let's not forget the struggle of finding the perfect pair that fit just right without any awkward gaps. We paired them with crop tops, baby tees, and bandanas. These tiny tops were a staple in our wardrobes, often adorned with quirky slogans or cute graphics. Bandanas weren't just for our heads. We wore them as tops, accessories, and even belts. The combination of low-rise jeans and crop tops was the ultimate casual yet trendy look. It was all about showing off that toned midsection and layering on the accessories. We were fearless in our fashion choices, mixing and matching colors and patterns with abandon. And don't even get me started on the bedazzling. If it could be bedazzled, it was. We had bedazzled jeans, jackets, and even shoes. The more rhinestones, the better. It was all about making a statement and standing out. Bedazzling was a way to personalize our clothes and accessories, adding that extra bit of sparkle to our everyday lives. We spent hours with our bedazzling kits, carefully placing each gem to create our unique designs. We bedazzled everything: our jeans, our phones, even our eyebrows. Yes, you heard that right, our eyebrows. It was a time of experimentation and pushing the boundaries of fashion. Our phones were covered in rhinestones, making them as much a fashion accessory as a communication device. Bedazzled eyebrows were a short-lived trend, but they perfectly captured the spirit of the era. Bold, daring, and unapologetically flashy. It was all about that extra sparkle. Glitter and rhinestones were everywhere, from our clothes to our accessories. We wanted to shine, to be noticed, and to express our individuality through our fashion choices. Sparkling accessories like belts, bags, and even hair clips were must-haves. We loved anything that caught the light and added a bit of glamour to our outfits. It was a time of excess and exuberance, and our fashion reflected that. And who could forget about juicy couture tracksuits? These velour wonders were the epitome of early 2000s comfort and style. They came in every color imaginable and were often adorned with the juicy logo and rhinestones. Celebrities like Paris Hilton and Jennifer Lopez made them famous, and we all wanted to lounge in that same luxurious comfort. They were perfect for a casual day out or just relaxing at home. The matching sets made us feel put together even when we were dressed down. They were the ultimate symbol of early 2000s comfort and style. Juicy couture tracksuits were more than just loungewear. They were a fashion statement. We wore them with pride, often pairing them with chunky sneakers and oversized sunglasses. They represented a carefree, glamorous lifestyle that we all aspired to. Looking back, it's clear that the early 2000s were a unique time in fashion, full of bold choices and unforgettable trends. Technology was blowing up. Remember rushing home to catch the latest music videos on TRL? Carson Daly, anyone? And then there was the iPod. It was a game changer. Suddenly, we could carry our entire music library in our pockets. And let's not forget about flip phones. Those things were indestructible. Plus, texting on a flip phone, a true art form. The early 2000s weren't all fun and games. 9/11s happened, and it changed everything. It was a day that shook us to our core. I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news. It was a moment of collective grief and uncertainty, but it also brought us together as a nation. Section 5. The birth of social media. Remember MySpace? It was our first foray into the world of social media. We spent hours customizing our profiles, picking out the perfect song, and writing overly dramatic blog posts. It was the beginning of a whole new way to connect with people. Little did we know what we were getting ourselves into. Section 6. Pop Culture Powerhouses. The early 2000s were a golden age for pop culture. Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera ruled the airwaves. Movies like Mean Girls and Bring It On became instant classics. And let's not forget about reality TV. Shows like Survivor and American Idol had us glued to our screens. Section 7. Remember Blockbuster? Remember the struggle of trying to pick out a movie on a Friday night at Blockbuster? The pressure was real, but it was also a social event. You'd run into your friends, debate the merits of various rom-coms, and maybe even snag the last copy of Love Actually. Good times. Section 8. The early 2000s, a mixed bag. Looking back, the early 2000s were a mixed bag. It was a time of transition, a bridge between the analog past and the digital future. People were just starting to get used to the idea of being constantly connected, yet there was still a sense of simplicity in everyday life. We were on the cusp of a technological revolution, but not quite there yet. We had some questionable fashion choices. Looking at you, low-rise jeans. The fashion of the early 2000s was a unique blend of bold experimentation and nostalgic throwbacks. From butterfly clips to cargo pants, it was a time when people weren't afraid to take risks with their style. Yet, some of those choices, like the infamous low-rise jeans, are now looked back on with a mix of fondness and embarrassment. And the technology was nowhere near as advanced as it is today. We had chunky cell phones with tiny screens, and desktop computers that took up half the desk. The internet was slow, and social media was in its infancy. Yet there was something exciting about the newness of it all. We were just beginning to explore the possibilities of a connected world, but there was a certain charm to it all. Family gatherings were filled with laughter, and friends would actually talk to each other without the distraction of smartphones. Children played outside, creating their own adventures and using their imaginations. It was a time when human connections felt more genuine, unfiltered by the screens that dominate our lives today. It was a time of innocence, before social media took over our lives. People were more present in the moment, enjoying the company of those around them. Conversations were deeper, and relationships felt more authentic. The early 2000s may have been a mixed bag, but it was a time that many look back on with a sense of nostalgia and longing for a simpler, more connected world. Section 9. That early 2000s feeling. The early 2000s were a unique time, a bridge between the analog past and the digital future. It was a period filled with a sense of wonder and discovery, as new technologies began to shape our lives in ways we couldn't have imagined. You know that feeling, right? The one that takes you back to a time when life seemed simpler and the world felt a little less complicated. It's a warm, fuzzy feeling that wraps around you like a cozy blanket on a cold day. The feeling of nostalgia for a simpler time. A time when our biggest concerns were what games to play after school or which cartoons to watch on Saturday mornings. We didn't have the constant buzz of social media or the pressure of always being connected. A time when the biggest worry was whether your crush liked you back. Remember passing notes in class or the excitement of a school dance? Those moments were filled with innocent joy and a sense of adventure. A time when the internet was still a relatively new and exciting thing. We were just beginning to explore the vast possibilities of the digital world. Dial-up connections, chat rooms, and the thrill of discovering new websites were all part of the experience. That's the feeling I get when I think about the early 2000s. It's a mix of fond memories and a longing for the days when life felt a bit more carefree. We were on the cusp of a new era, and everything seemed possible. It was a time of growth, change, and a whole lot of fun. From the fashion trends to the music, everything had its own unique flavor. We were experimenting, finding our identities, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. Those years were formative, shaping who we are today. They were filled with laughter, friendship, and a sense of belonging. The early 2000s will always hold a special place in our hearts, reminding us of a time when life was just a little bit simpler and a whole lot more magical.